Jimmy Carter called and he wants his presidency back. The White House is reportedly worried about the strong parallels that exist between Joe Biden and former President Carter, as more voters notice it's the 70s all over again. Americans are waking up to new record high gas prices. The nationwide average is almost at $5 a gallon. Inflation is taking a massive bite out of everyone's budget, and the president's approval rating keeps finding new lows. 83% of Americans say the economy is poor or not so good under Biden. While things are looking dire for Joe, he's finding some support out there.
I think what President Biden and the administration did was really save this economy when they came in with the COVID packages that put some money back in the economy. You know, the interesting part about this is the economy is really not doing too bad at all. I think it's time for Democrats starting taking credit for the good things that are out there, and there is a lot of them.
You know what, Greg? For some reason, I think there's a disconnect between what that guy was saying and the fact that Americans are feeling, 83% of them, that the country is certainly going in the bad direction and they're not feeling good about the economy. He says what President Biden has done was really to save the economy. They came in with a COVID package. What say you?
Well, clearly this guy doesn't drive, or he doesn't do anything that he doesn't know the prices of things. You know, it is kind of like the White House response when, you know, sorry, we really can't help you. You know, as far as we can tell, things are great. So it might be you. It could be you. It's like the White House is run like a telemarketing firm. It's like they call you when they need your business, but they never pick up after you're already paid and you got the package and it's all broken and it takes you forever. I still love their strategy of coming up with impossible expectations. Like, it's not like we have a switch to turn on the baby food machine, because there is one. Or it's not like there's a dial. So I came up for this that sets gas prices, so I have some new ones. It's not like you can push a button to end crime. It's not like you can wave your magic wand to solve inflation. But these are all these things that they do to excuse their failure. All the other previous presidents, they didn't have buttons or dials, but they still got it done.
Trump had a button. It brought him Diet Coke.
That's right, the Diet Coke button.
All right, Dana, you know, there's no end in sight. This morning, gas prices were up again. But the Democrats keep trying to paint a rosy picture. And the American people kind of get it with the polling.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of something that they could do in their current situation. I mean, I know all the things that we would say, like, well, obviously do more allow for more drilling, relax the regulations, et cetera. So there's all those things they could do, but they're not willing to do that. And I was reading in Mark Halperin's Wide World of News column that he does, and he writes these fake memos from Ron Klain to the president, but it really lays out a lot of truths. And one of the things that Klain says to Biden in this fake memo is, well, if you think things are bad now, if we don't do things that are more to the left, your numbers will go down even more, because the only thing holding you up right now is the far left progressives who are holding out hope that you'll do student loan relief or something more on climate change, et cetera. So I just don't think that there's anything communications-wise they can do that will solve this. It's a policy problem. And I think we always, as Americans, human beings, you like to compare to something in the past. I actually think the situation we're in right now is much worse than the 70s.
You know, Jesse, one of the things they talk about is, you know, putting more money into the economy, and that, you know, that will save all of us.
Yeah, spend more, and that'll help the dollar. I look back at what Carter did in the 70s to get us out of the energy crisis, and it's like 10 times more than what Biden did. Carter actually put a pipeline through Alaska. He introduced more nuclear power, the light water reactors. He introduced more domestic production, tried to get us off our dependence on foreign oil, and went green. So all of those things are like actual substantial things you could do as president. Joe Biden has just tinkered around the edges. He wants to blend a little more ethanol into the gasoline, which is going to just raise food prices. He's canceling pipelines. He's actually making us more dependent on foreign oil when he goes and begs the Saudis to pump more. So people like to say that Jimmy Carter is the worst president of all time. At least Carter was smart. We had Gingrich on the show last night, and he reminded me that Carter graduated from the Naval Academy and was a nuclear submarine guy. He actually had a brain on the shoulders, and Biden obviously doesn't, and it's sad.
That's his title, nuclear submarine guy.
Yeah.
And also former president.
Tulsi, the White House, they say, is in a panic. They're stressed. What should they do?
Well, first of all, stop thinking about yourself and actually think about getting things done for the American people. I think that's the first problem, is they're concerned about how they look. Second of all, I think they've got it completely wrong. Biden will be remembered as being worse than Jimmy Carter, because they're talking about gas prices and inflation and how things were bad then and now, but they're ignoring the fact that Carter's policies didn't fast track us into a new Cold War and push us into a place where we're closer to a nuclear war now than since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Carter didn't denounce and reject half the country as domestic terrorists. Carter didn't stick the Department of Justice on parents who are trying to fight for their children's education. The list goes on and on. I really wish the President of the United States and the White House would really focus on actually doing the work for the American people rather than thinking about perceptions or politics or elections or all these other things.
All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.